Hey, what's up, Blazer fans? Welcome to We Have a Take the What podcast. I am Tara Bowen Biggs, and I am delighted to be joined, as always, by Rose Harding. Hello, Rose.
Hi, Tara. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And as the Blazers regular season inches ever closer, we had to bring back a recent guest. Today, we are joined by Dillon Sage of Holy Backboard because we have some unfinished business. A few weeks ago, we did dribble, pass, and shoot for a bunch of players who are no longer on the team. So we're going to finish up that with the new players. And I'm just excited to talk to you guys. Should we get started with our icebreaker?
Yeah. Let's talk about sports memorabilia. What's a favorite piece of sports memorabilia you guys have? Tara, let's start with you.
Well, my favorite piece of sports memorabilia is thanks to you, Rose. I have a beautiful Shadon Sharpe trading card of him doing my absolute favorite dunk. It's the one where he looks like just an angel with his toes pointed, his legs together, his arm perfectly cocked back. It got a prize spot right next to my workstation so I can look at it. And this is higher in my ranking of even than my Al-Farouq Aminu special collector's edition card. So it is a high spot of honor. So that's my favorite piece of sports memorabilia right now.
That's high praise because I never thought that like we would unseat that Al-Farouq Aminu card. It's been a prized possession for a long time now. Sage, how about you? What's your favorite piece of sports memorabilia?
So before I became a Blazers fan, I was a New Orleans Saints fan. And this man right here, Deuce McAllister, I watched him when he was an Old Miss running back, and I thought that nobody should be that fast, that big, and that strong. So when he was drafted to the New Orleans Saints, I was like, all right, that's awesome, because I already was a Saints fan. But Deuce McAllister really was the reason I got into football. And before, I thought I was going to be a football podcaster talking about how great, the NFL was. But as I got older, I didn't like to see like young men getting injured and hurt. But the fact that Deuce McAllister was such a humongous impact in my life with sports, like, you know, I haven't thrown that many fits, but in 2009, the Saints cut my guy Deuce, and then we won a Super Bowl that year, and it was the one and only Super Bowl that we ever won. And I felt like his salary wasn't that big, but we just wanted to cut him. He was our all-time leader in rushing and in touchdowns, and like when I saw him break the record, I was like, it made me emotional. So Deuce McAllister's memorabilia. I have 1,213 out of 2003 of these arrow thingies. Banners.
Pennant.
They're
It's like a
banners. Yeah.
pennant, but it's like a
Yeah.
vertical. It's like a vertical pennant.
Yeah. So yeah, Deuce McAllister was is yeah, like my he's my all-time favorite player. I know Drew Brees is the best. I know Ricky Jackson is the Saints' best defender, but for me, Deuce McAllister and the way he ran the ball and caught the ball in an era where running backs really didn't catch the ball. His rookie season, I think he had like 60 catches for a guy this big is pretty amazing. So Deuce McAllister is my all-time favorite sports memorabilia.
How heartbreaking that they won the
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl right after he left.
Well, that's the same. Like he was like a late cut in the season because you have to get to your roster of 52. But the all-time Saints best running back until Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara came there. Like he was literally like I think like he got 2,000 all-purpose yards a few seasons. So like this dude was so skilled as a running back. Even after like two knee surgeries, he was getting like 1,000 yards. And like one of the best memories I've ever had was in like the NFC East NFC Championship game. He was going against the Eagles, and it was like a 3rd and 8, and he just carried the entire Eagles team on his back to score a touchdown. So yeah, Deuce McAllister was really the impotence for a lot of the sports stuff in my life.
That's awesome. And what an amazing name.
Oh yeah, Deuce, lots of use McAllister. Like, and our team was awful. Like we were basement dwellers, but we had this one running back that was awesome.
Yeah, that was like the pre-Reggie Bush era,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the running the thunder with Reggie Bush's lightning.
Yeah, there it is. Reggie Bush, he was like in college, like when I was in college, and so like, he went to USC
Mm-hmm.
during the cheating days. And I went to the U of O, so I'm like diametrically opposed to anything Reggie Bush. Sorry, Reggie Bush.
I mean, he won a Super Bowl for us. So I'm always, anyone in that '09 team, I respect and honor because that watching them win the Super Bowl when they've sucked for their entire existence, essentially, like they wore paper bags over their heads when they went to games. So to see them win a championship was like I don't think I've ever been that happy, had that gleeful, like a team that I've watched when Aaron Stecker was the backup running back and Aaron Brooks smiled after he threw interceptions to see us be the best team in the NFL is awesome.
Love it. Rose, what's your memorabilia?
My favorite piece of sports memorabilia that I have a signed Ed Davis card from when
Ooh.
he was a Blazer.
Oh, I've
My
been thinking so much about Ed Davis lately.
I know, because he's like firmly gone now. And like, sometimes guys go for like 1 year they're gone, and sometimes they come right back or something, and or they get signed mid-season because of injuries or whatever. He's like firmly gone, and so I like mourn the loss of my favorite Blazer, Ed Davis. But my friend Chelsea, who was my basketball BFF for many, many, many years, and still is, she hasn't been watching as much basketball now, but I still consider her a basketball BFF. She gave me an Ed Davis card. I don't even know if it was for my birthday or what, or just because she knew that I loved him so much. Um,
Awesome.
so anyway, yeah, I have a signed Ed Davis card. That's my prized possession.
I love it. Well, let's start off with talking just about, since we've had what do we have, there's three preseason games are now behind us, recording this on Sunday, so tomorrow will be the fourth preseason game, and one against the Breakers, one against Phoenix, and one against Utah. So let's start off with just some general observations that can be on anything, can be basketball related, can be Blazers related, can be Blazers broadcasting related, however you want to take it. Let's just share a few things that we've noticed. Sage, do you want to start?
I just want to comment about how difficult it is to watch these games because I'm not willing to pay the extra. I'm not willing to pay for cable in general, but I wouldn't be willing to pay for the sports package to watch a Bad Root sports product. So the difficulty of actually watching this team play is my first, you know, the games. I'm trying to just enjoy the vibes, but not really like make any concrete ideas about what our team has in place. But just trying to find the right stream, like the first game not being broadcasted and I had to watch it on somebody's phone on YouTube. Just it's 2023. We need to make it easier for us to watch a NBA professional team play basketball. Like it's easy to watch baseball games. It's easy to watch NFL games. It's really difficult to watch Portland Trailblazers games.
Yeah, I'll say I don't know how easy it is to watch football games. It wasn't always easy. Maybe it's changed a lot. I don't watch football anymore, but when I was growing up, I know that there was always like games blacked out here and there for whatever reason. And
Mhm.
that was always super annoying. Or sometimes you'd be in one region for one game, but actually now this week you're in a region for a different game. And so you're missing the team that you normally see. That was always like really frustrating to me. But now that we live in this world where like, like when I was watching football, it was like before everyone had their own streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like we live in this world where it still feels like they think that that's the world we live in, but I'm like, we can stream anything whenever we want all the time now. And that includes people who are like watching streams illegally because it's too hard to pay for it. And I'm like, if you want our money, you should make it super easy for us to pay you to watch your team. But so I don't know. I haven't decided yet on my way of watching games yet. I've been kind of one-offing, figuring out how to follow games in the preseason, but I don't know, a lot of people do NBA TV and VPN, and that just feels like an L that we would have to like pretend that we don't live here to like support our team.
Yeah. And given like how much information is out there, it's really so thanks a lot capitalism that we can't actually watch the actual product live. I mean, you can go to NBA TV or not, you can go to NBA.com the next day and like see a clip of every play. And you can sit there and like go through the play by play and watch every play. You can get a stream on your phone that like shows every shot, but you can't just watch the game. And that just to me is just like capitalism. Just going, oh, you want this thing? Well, if you really want it, we're going to give it to you in all these other ways and make you feel like you're really lucky that you get that, but we're not going to give you the actual thing. So that's my capitalism rant for the for the week. But I share that observation that it is way too hard to watch games.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like capitalism is also what gave us this whole like you can get root and you can get TNT. You can't get them in the same package together right now in most places. And like that's I'm like, if somebody wants to pay enough, like pay money for basketball, they want to watch TNT. Like, I'm sorry. You want to watch Shaq and Chuck go at it. That's like part of the fun. So like, why am I gonna have to pay for two different cable packages to get them without having to like have a Comcast cable box in my house? Because I refuse to do that. Anyway, I get it. I feel that. Tara, though, you have been in the arena for the games, for the preseason games. How have those felt?
So the first one was against the Breakers, and it was just extreme chaos. And unsurprising. I mean, like that's the thing. It's like I think the whole first couple of months of this season are all going to be about like, okay, what are our real expectations? What are we really expecting to see? And what are we hoping to see? And what's reasonable? And for me, one of the things that I've taken away from preseason is I just want to see some modicum of organization. It doesn't have to be perfect organization. Like this team is not only do we have 6 players who are either rookie or first year players, they they have a whole bunch of other new players, many of whom just got here 2 weeks ago. And so there's just like hasn't been time to get organized. So I just would like to see improvement in organization, whether or not that's like when they're on the court looking like they know what the play is, or looking like they have an idea of where they're going to go, or whether or not it's like off the court, like seeing what their routine is in terms of like when there's a timeout, what do they do? Does everybody wander around? It's like the same thing happens at summer league. At the beginning, like nobody knows what's going on, and then by the end of summer league, they have like their little routine down. So that's one of the things that I've noted is a small progression in organization. It does seem like they are getting into sets, having plays, and it's hard to know like what they were doing against the Breakers. Like how much did they just like send them out to scrimmage and just go to scrimmage and do whatever? But I really enjoyed watching them play Phoenix, and because it was like they had Devin Booker and Kevin Durant out there, and I can't remember who was guarding who, but like Matisse Thybulle was out there like with a real defensive assignment. Jeremy Grant was out there with a real defensive assignment. It was cool to watch that. It's like, oh, okay. I can start to get a vision here. So I have a lot more organizations, but let's keep going and hear or observations, but let's keep going and hear some of yours and just kind of take turns and for a little while. So what about you, Rose? Have you noticed what observations do you have?
Well, one thing that I noticed is that we lost our, for better or for worse, our Corey Jez on the telecast, and we have Jez 2.0.
I haven't heard any of the broadcasts. So what are your impressions of it's Tom Haberstroh, right?
Yeah, Tom Haberstroh. And so okay, so here's what I don't understand. We had Corey Jez on our broadcast for 1 year. where it was like a little clunky at first, and I felt like his improvement from the beginning of the season to the end was like noticeable. He got a lot more comfortable on air. Like at first I felt like his like anxiety, and I don't think that they quite necessarily I don't think they figured how to use him that well in terms of like sharing stats mid-game or anything. But I also think he got better, and it's weird to me that they like decided to move on from him and got another guy who, like, I don't know if I think he's better. He's different, but like, why don't you just keep the same dude? That's my question.
I mean, pre-show, Rose and I complained about all the people on the Blazers broadcast. So maybe I don't even think that segment should really be in existence, because I don't think it helps the fans understand the game in any more. Like it's bad stats, and the graphics aren't really helping the audience learn anything. So I think they should really put time in to help these fans learn, like, you know, what PER is, what a usage rate is, all of this stuff. Because right now it's like you have to have a pretty in-depth idea of what these stats are and how it helps. But when I happen to be upon Blazers streams, I'm like, this doesn't help anyone. It's just kind of like stats for no apparent reason. If you're gonna have a whole segment to teach people, you know, advanced stats, teach them, not just assume that everybody has this wealth of knowledge about basketball statistics. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Well, and I'll say we weren't complaining about the people. We were complaining about the way that they used Corey Jez, in that like they often like put him in wherever there was time to fill, but they put him in at times where he was sharing statistics that didn't really go with what we were watching on the screen. They were like probably like pre-prepared, like little stat packages that they prepared graphics for. And sometimes they'd be showing you like stats that didn't match anything you just saw. A player's stats like who isn't even in the game at the time. And I just feel like presenting statistics is more than just presenting numbers. It's like drawing good conclusions for how the audience can build their understanding of what that stat means. And so I think that like, and it's definitely beyond just what Corey Jez or Tom Haberstroh have to do, which is like where they're slotted in to talk, but like it's up to the production team to like slot them in at the right times to explain something to the audience that they just saw. And that also means that they have to be really nimble in terms of being prepared to present a lot of different types of stats. And maybe you have them prepared and like it doesn't present itself in a game, so you don't use it and you kick it down the road to the next game. But like using them in a tactical ways that helps people understand what they're seeing versus like what they're seeing on the screen and what they're seeing in the statistic and how they're related. That's how you get like, I think you get a really nice slice of statistics that feels like digestible to a lay audience, because a lot of people don't care about them. And it's really funny because I always tell you, Tara, I don't really care about stats a whole lot, even though like in my like personal life I work with a lot of data. But like if you're not like teaching people how to like use those to apply those to what they see and how they watch the game, then like there's no reason for people to decide that they want to care about those things. That's my like big problem with how they used him, was not necessarily that Corey Jez was not super good or that Tom Haberstroh is not very good, but like I don't think that the biggest steps for improvement was on like the like hosts like shoulders. I think that it was on the production team's shoulders to use them better.
I feel like one of the things that was really awkward last season is that they would inject a Corey Jez segment, like, and then something interesting would be happening and it'd be like, stop talking. I want to see what's going on the game. And like, that's not on him. And it's just like, that's the flow of the game and you never know when it's going to go. And I would think that an effective way would be to like spend some of the time and money and effort on having like a little pre-show that's like, here's the things that we're going to watch for and why, because here's the team that we're playing and here's what's important and here's what the statistics are and this is what we're going to watch, and then maybe track them at halftime and then maybe track them again at the end, because interjecting it in the middle of the action is just like, I don't understand why, like when you watch the WNBA, they keep interjecting in these interviews in the middle of the action and the fans are like, stop doing that. But broadcasts keep doing it. Why? Just let us enjoy what's happening and we can take in the explanations like before and after.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, I think that you could have some stuff that you follow up on mid-game if you set the tone for that. Like in a pregame, you could like check in on stats that you've identified, like say it like a timeout, like a predictable amount of time where there's not going to be like game action going on or something. I think there's definitely room to like make that interesting and fun, and like for people to learn something if that's what they want. But
don't shrink the screen.
no, like forcing it upon us when we want to be watching basketball. The only reason why anyone is going to care about those statistics is because they care about basketball. And you know what? If it comes down to looking at statistics on a screen or looking at a basketball game, everybody's going to choose the game first every single time. So don't do that. You can shrink your Corey Jazz, your Tom Haberstroh or whatever down into the corner if he's talking in about his statistics or whatever mid-game. Don't shrink the game down. Okay, we agree.
Oh, absolutely.
Also, Corey, I'm so sorry. I didn't super like you at the beginning of the season, but I realized over the course of the season they were using you wrong, and that's not your fault. And I hope that you're happy doing whatever it is that you're doing now that's not Blazers
I think
stats.
he was a big golf guy, and I believe he's gone back to golf. So maybe golf was really what where his passions lay.
Also, did you see in the off season where he kind of got in a spat with Dame's like conditioning guy?
No.
They got into it on Twitter for a little minute because I think that what's his face was saying that Corey was like boring.
I did see that. So Corey has a badge now, as he's gotten into a Twitter fight with somebody from Dame's team. He can wear that with pride. All right, let's do a few more preseason observations. Sage, what else are you seeing?
I think Scoot's the real deal. I've been a stan of his for a few years now, and it really, I know these games don't necessarily count, but him having command of the team, and even when he has an off game, he's contributing in a multitude of ways, makes me feel really good about the future of the team. I mean, I think his vision is really legendary with how he can see the game, and seeing seeing how Scoot has just vision that isn't just directly in front of him but peripheral is really impressive, especially since right now I feel like him and Malcolm Brogdon are the only real legitimate playmakers on this team. Like, the vision of Scoot Henderson and his game in general has just been really awesome to see him, and I can't wait for these games to really matter.
I agree and would add, I have noted like Anfernee is really good at shooting.
Yeah.
Anfernee is playing great, and I'm really enjoying Anfernee, and I'm really enjoying Anfernee and Scoot together. And I think that's a really important combination. And last week when we talked to Caitlin Cooper, one of the things that she suggested that we keep our eye on are the minutes that the two of them play together and how they do. And that's also kind of what got me thinking about Ed Davis, because remember when Ed Davis and Zach Collins played almost all of his minutes with Ed Davis. It was like if Zach Collins was in, Ed Davis was in there with him. I like the combination of Scoot and Anfernee because I want Scoot trying a lot of stuff, but I want him to have a high degree of potential success. And if he's in there with a bunch of other rookies, he right now doesn't have as a high of a chance of success in his passing and completing those passes as he does when he's got a guy like Anfernee beside him. And I like that Anfernee can handle the ball to give Scoot a chance to sit back and try to do some off-ball work, but he can also really thrive as the person who's the recipient of Scoots. So I really like seeing the two of them together. And I know, people were talking about like, we should get Shadon in there. Shadon should be starting, and like Anfernee should be a 6-man. And like, I do not agree with any of that at all. I really like Scoot and Anfernee together. I really like what I've seen with the two of them together.
I love that. Also, like, we kind of get to see Ant when he doesn't have to be like twisted into a shape around Dame, which is like like it's. I mean, I still think that like he worked okay with Dame, but like just, whenever you're playing next to a player of Dame's skill, you're going to be forced to twist your game around there's a little bit to be complementary. And now we get to see Ant's game for Ant's game, and he gets to be around a bunch of guys who are still figuring out what their game looks like. And I don't know, I like that for him. I think that it's nice for him to have an opportunity to do that before, like, if for some reason he moves on at some point. Like, I don't know, like, I always feel really bad for those young guys. Like, and I think DeandreAyton was like a good example of that in Phoenix too. Like, those young guys that come into the league and they have to figure out what their game is, but they have to figure out what it is in the context of playing next to like stars. And so you don't necessarily grow all the aspects of it that you might otherwise if you weren't playing next to that person, because all of a sudden certain skills are a high priority and other skills are a low priority, even though your ceiling on those skills might be very good. Maybe you never realize those skills. And then at a certain point, a guy's career is like looked at for what it is, and they don't think of them as a developing player anymore. And suddenly you just never developed those skills. And so like Ant is still young, and I still think he'll have a great opportunity to like develop skills that he maybe didn't get a chance to like fully realize when he was playing next to Dame.
And I feel like the shots that he's going to take are going to be much easier because of Scoot. Like, just when you have a guy that has that type of athleticism, defenses are going to be drawn to him, and he's going to be able to kick it out to Ant. And I know people want him to be more Klay Thompson, but he's probably one of the best pull-up shooters in the league. So taking that out of his game is it is going to really diminish what he can do. I mean, of course, I would like for him to not be in a place where he has to be a playmaker, but the way that he can utilize that pull-up shooting is pretty magical. So if we can find a way for him to utilize scoring for himself and not really worry about passing it to somebody on like a cut, make his reads as easy as possible so he has the best chance for success, and make all the hard reads go to Scoot on a particular play, I think will help him out. It's just about utilizing what he's good at and try and minimize the stuff that he's not as elite at.
Oh, and so long I've heard the narrative about, first Dame and CJ were redundant, and then it was like our Ant and Dame redundant. I really see these two as complementary to each other, like very complementary, and so that helps me kind of understand why the other combinations maybe didn't feel so complementary, why they did feel to a lot of people more redundant.
Definitely.
All right. Okay. What other preseason observations do we have?
I need to touch on this. I don't know if this is an observation or not, but did you guys all see Nurk's return to Portland?
Yes.
I felt Nurk looked a little sad.
So I was in the arena for that game, and so I didn't see all of his pre-game press, but I thought he was, as he always is, just himself. One of the things we all love about Nurk is how he wears his heart on his sleeve. And when he was out on the floor, and, he just walked straight over to the other side so that he could say and greet all of his friends. And then he turned around and had a really good game. And I think that's the good sign, is that he turned around and had a really good game.
He just looked like when you like go back to your high school for the first time, after graduating, and you see all your old teachers and you really like them and miss them. That's how I felt like Nurk looked a little bit. I can
see that. Yeah. Definitely. I think it was so fresh.
Even though he did say, like, he had nothing but love for his time here, and it didn't sound like he wasn't voicing any like negativity or ill will around like what happened with the trade. Like, I think he expected it, and even so, it was still like, he was talking about how his cats still live here.
I think it's awesome that he's getting put in a really, really positive position for him and his skill set, and potentially winning, a championship if everything goes right. Like, we did good by him by putting him in a situation where he has minutes, guaranteed minutes, and can succeed and potentially win a championship. I think both of our major trades, we put those guys into some majorly awesome places for them to succeed.
Yeah, everyone that came through here, like they got put on teams more or less where they were wanted and they had a good opportunity to play and win. Like, and like what else can you ask for in a trade, honestly? Like when you don't control your own fate, where you're not like a free agent, like I don't know. I just feel like that we did right by most of the guys that have come through here in the last couple of years in ways that maybe we didn't do before with
Mm-hmm.
whoever in charge.
Well, and what another observation that I have, not about preseason, but about what you just said, Rose, is that how frequently did we used to see Blazers traded off of the Blazers and then basically they disappeared?
Yes. Oh my God. I like
This is
I
night and day different.
yes. And also Tara, I've thought about this before and I was like we should do a podcast of Blazers legends where we were their last stop
It would be a
on the
long
NBA
podcast.
train. Because there were a lot of guys where like, they like fall down the tree until they fall out of the tree and we're the last branch they hit. Like
Yeah.
the Mario Hazonia All-Star Award, if you will. Like I I kind of wonder actually though, like I've noticed that actually a lot of people that have been Blazers now are like there's a couple of teams that seem to be picking up like they may be like a branch underneath us now. Like the Nets feel like a branch underneath us where they catch a lot of the players that fall out of the Blazers and they fall into the Nets. Like I don't know, maybe we're not the bottom rung on that tree anymore.
Well, and I think the difference is that I I think we've seen that there's a GM who's willing to trade somebody when they are at a higher value in terms of being able to still like really help another team.
Yeah, that's true. And like instead of just letting them like lose so much value that
Yeah.
eventually they become like a liability and you like waive them or waive and stretch them and or whatever. Like yeah, I agree. That we used to love to like hold on to stocks until they were dead.
Yep.
I have a non-basketball related observation about preseason, and that is the Moda Center captions are definitely in preseason mode. I don't know if y'all have seen it from the broadcast, but people have definitely been sharing on Twitter how bad the captions are
They're
on the
horrific.
Jumbotron. It is outrageous, and it's funny, but it's also like people rely on those captions. There's a reason they have those captions, and there's certain regulations that you are trying to fulfill and meet by having captions, and they are not meeting them at all. They are not even close. Like the national anthem, everybody knows the words to the national anthem, right? They could preload those, but they are clearly not preloaded. They could preload the names of the play. It's just it's hilarious, but it's also really bad, and they need to fix it.
Okay, so here's what I don't understand about that. I saw that Sean Hyken tweeted about this, that this was like the preseason AI that they were using for captions. Or I don't know if it's just for preseason, but like it's an AI. How good can an AI be if they cannot predict the lyrics to the national anthem? Like those are pre-written.
Yeah.
Those are pre-written lyrics. Like, and it's really just sitting there detecting the sounds and trying to interpret them. I'm like, can you not interpret the music? Like what I'm saying is the AI is not going to be our overlords anytime soon because they can't even sing the national anthem. Like they're like not only are like the words wrong, Tara, but like the punctuation is wild. The fact
Mm-hmm.
that it inserts random punctuation is very strange to me. Like I feel like didn't those captions before not even usually use punctuation? It was like I felt like it was few and far between, and sometimes they like ran sentences on together.
Um, I I I don't know about the punctuation, and I don't know. I'm assuming the previous ones had a human element, like that there were humans doing
Yeah.
the transcription, or at least going back and correcting them.
Mm-hmm.
Like YouTube captions are not perfect, but they get a lot right, and you can
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
go back and correct them. These weren't even in the ballpark. Like there was and like not only that, like there was one, I tweeted it out, and it was like it was for one of the I'm not going to say it because it was so terrible, but it was for one of the food vendors on the concourse and said, eat at this place is a great place to die during a game. And it was just like, are you kidding me? that is not okay. That is like, if I was them, I would be all over it and say, you fix this now. So hopefully they will be fixing it soon, and they will either go back to how they used to do it, or they will correctly, because you're supposed to like feed and teach the AI how to do it by like giving it the lyrics and saying, here's the lyrics, match them up. I don't know. Sage, have you experienced any of that? Have you seen any of this?
No, because when I watch Blazers broadcasts, I don't normally listen to what they're saying. Most of my time listening to Blazers broadcasts is when I'm at my mother's house. So really I'm doing my own thing. Like I'm listening to music or a podcast or an audiobook during the game. So I'm not really subjected to the Blazers broadcasts, and a lot of times I'm watching the opponent's broadcasts too. So no,
well,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, even when you're in the arena, sometimes like if you miss like who scored, you'll look up to the jumbotron to see like that slightly delayed, and you'll be like, oh, Reese scored. But it'll say like Hungry Man, and you'll be like, I don't know who Hungry Man is.
That's awesome.
So hopefully they will get that fixed soon.
Okay, so Tara, these are really important questions that I have for you since you've been in the arena for preseason. So Sean Hyken, shout out Sean Hyken, who does the reporting that the people want, has been reporting on some of the like audio cues for like guys scoring or like their intros. And do you have any interesting ones to share?
The only one that I've noticed is Malcolm Brogdon. When he scores, they play the Malcolm in the Middle theme song. You know, you're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. That's the only one that I've noticed. It's been actually for preseason games. It's been really loud in there.
That's amazing. I heard that Sean said that Scoot's audio cue is from a Snoop song where they call out Snoop, but I don't remember which song it is now. But he noted that it was like from this, like when he was like a little kid, like it's that old of a song.
Well, they've not adjusted the lyrics as we suggested yet for Young and Wild and Free.
What are they doing over there?
Sage, we made up new lyrics to Young and Wild and Free.
Tara did.
So what, we got dunks. So what, I'll smoke thee. It writes itself for a young team is all I'm saying. And they've not played it yet. So I guess I'll have to write a note to Dwayne.
But shout out to Kat, who correctly chose Mary J. Blige Family Affair.
Yes.
For our preseason playlist. And then they performed it at FanFest, right?
Scoot did. I wasn't there at FanFest, but I would really like to see the clips of the other guys doing their singing, because I heard they were all really good, which is fun.
That is fun.
Well, shall we move on to talking about the players that the Blazers recently added to the roster? Any more last minute observations about preseason?
Let's move it on.
Okay. Well, so Sage, I'm going to just kind of turn this part over to you and ask you a bunch of questions probably.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's go alphabetically and start with DeandreAyton. And does he dribble, pass, or shoot? And what is going to be his bankable skill that is going to get him and keep him on the court?
Well, I think it's for bigs, it's hard for them to be dribbling and passing. We haven't really seen them. We haven't seen the Suns really utilize him as a passer since they had Booker, who is a huge usage guy, Chris Paul, who's the best point guard in a generation. So he really wasn't put in a position to pass. I think that he will be all right at passing. Shooting is a adventure. I think that he's going to do most of his work inside the paint. I mean, the thing that I love about him is that he's had this movement ability. Like, a lot of bigs are more robotic with their movements, but he can move well. So I think that's why he was the number one pick, was because of his movement skills at Arizona. And that's why he had such illustrious comps. It's because of his movement abilities as a center. Like 7-foot dudes aren't supposed to move like the way he does. That's why Marvin Bagley was such a high pick. It's because he moved well. So I think that's what's going to keep him there. And I think that he's locked into like 34 minutes of actual action in a game now, like his movement ability. So I don't think he's going to shoot much, and I don't think he's going to dribble or pass, but the way that he's such a great mover and can be a dominant force defensively and offensively is why he's going to be on the court.
Can you talk more specifically about what you mean by movement? Like, wait, give some examples of how he moves.
Well, remember how Nurk had to chase in a pick and roll? Nurk had to chase the point guard. Like it was a full switch, and Nurk had to run against a fast guard. Ayton has the ability to at least put resistance on a guard because he can move laterally and forwards and forward and backward, whatever the right terminology is for that. But he has lateral movement for a big man, and that like my first test when I watch young bigs is, can they move laterally, or is it a awkward choppy mess? I think the way that he moves, like his footwork, is really refined for how big he is. And yeah, like I think that he can run fast forwards and north south, and he can move well east west. That's the way I should describe it from now on: east west movement.
It was fun seeing him a couple of times, like really racing down into to catch some passes. That was like, oh, like he's very speedy.
He kind of moved like young LaMarcus when he would run up and down the court trying to, get easy buckets. I really thought of him as a souped up Tyson Chandler.
Oh, Tyson Chandler, that's interesting. Although I think of him as slower, less athletic, probably than
Well,
Ayton.
remember, I watched Chris Paul at his prime, so that version of Tyson was a jumping bean.
Yeah, I guess he had a long career. I forgot he when he was a Knick, he was a
Son,
and he was a Mav.
Yeah,
I think yeah.
When they won the chip, he was a big part of it.
My husband used to call him chicken legs because he had like really skinny legs for a tall guy, and like I think he was on the Knicks during the Jeremy Lin era, whatever that era was, which was like actually only one season, but it felt like forever.
It was a good few days for sure for us.
Yeah, for Asian American community to rally around the NBA and realize that there was one of us playing good basketball. But yeah, he was I just remember seeing him, like he was so tall and long, but also with the skinniest legs, and like his legs looked like forearms. So you kind of got to this, but so do you mean like his movement is great because he has great footwork, or do you think it's more like, are we talking about like pure athleticism or agility?
I think it's both. I think that it's both, because you can be a pure athlete and really suck going laterally. Like Obi Toppin, really good athlete, awful hips. I've really been watching men's hips and feet a lot since doing all these Future Fridays. Ayton has fluidity in all of his limbs to make him move really, really well.
Interesting.
So you think that he's got do you think he's got that Portland has a good role for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think he just wanted to be a bigger part of the Phoenix Suns team, and now by default, I think he's one of the big three. So, and I think that he has a chance to finish games for us because of how well he moves. Like you don't want to put him on like a really, really bursty power forward, but most teams really don't have that. So I when Nurk was on the team, I wanted a guy that could do the swing 4-5 and finish games, kind of like what we'd had with Larry Nance. But with Ayton, he can finish games against most teams. So I think his movement abilities is what's going to keep him on the floor for like 34 minutes at a time.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That would be like really big. That would be like quite a bit of usage right there.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not really sure what kind of like health we're going to be able to keep
Yeah.
Rob Williams and here, because I know he's missed a lot of games in his career and he's great, but like maybe it's better if we're able to like limit his minutes and lean more on
Mm-hmm.
DeandreAyton, who's been sturdier.
Yep. Absolutely.
I have a quick dribbling question. Do you consider the skill of dribbling when a big guy especially will put it on the floor for like a couple of dribbles? Like, is that part of like, that's kind of like when I think of dribbling, I think like somebody dribbling it up the court or somebody like in isolation.
Yeah.
But like a big guy sometimes needs to take a couple of dribbles. What are your thoughts on Ayton in that?
He really wasn't I can't really give a real answer because I really haven't seen it. They've kind of reduced his role to being a traditional big. I think that he has the ability to do it, but is it just going to be functional? I can dribble the ball, or is it going to be I can dribble the ball down the court? Like, Bam has a pretty big usage rate. AD has a pretty big usage rate. I think Ayton is going to dribble a little bit, but I want him to get the rebound and pass it to Scoot for an easy transition layup instead of him dribbling the ball. We have a bunch of athletes. Let's pick that pace up and run.
Mm-hmm. That would be more of a like, we're going to throw the other team a twist. Like, okay, you guys have figured out how to you figured out how to defend Scoot in this. Now we're going to mix things up a little bit and DeAndre's going to handle the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what we're going to see this season, and that's what's so fun. Who knows?
It might change dramatically from like the beginning of the season to the end. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed this in preseason, but like this team really wants to run. And I was like I never thought this before, but I was like, Jeremy Grant looks a little slow out there. I can see him like not necessarily not wanting to, but like not looking as comfortable running and making those like quick decisions that this team seems really eager to make. And granted, with quick decisions sometimes come quick mistakes, but like,
absolutely.
I feel like that's like maybe like going to be a growing pain for this team to see if they can like turn those mistakes in transition and running the ball so much like into like just really dynamic, fun, like net positive play.
Well, Jeremy's at least 30, right? As an older, 30-year-old man, I kind of get that, may not want to run with the 20-year-old boys. I get that. I mean, I thought Dame was just so unwilling to run when he was the point guard of this team. So it's a complete change 180 from, playing at Dame's pace to playing at a breakneck, let's run in transition. I mean, like, getting easy points is going to be a really important thing for us. So let's push that pace and try and get as many easy transition points as possible, because I don't see anyone outside of Scoot getting to the line at a big enough frequency to make up for us being slower.
Yeah, so this is something that like maybe you have good advice for me. One of the things that I have struggled with just watching this team play a little bit is like I don't really know where to look anymore, because the way that I have like settled into watching the Blazers, I could really just focus in on the point guard and know what's about to happen. And like you could see some action, but generally like now there's like far more like off-ball action going on. There's a lot more weak side movement. Like there's a lot going on now that I don't really super duper know how to watch this team anymore, because I can't just stare down a point guard and know it's about to happen.
Dame was the alpha and omega for the team, so you just needed to watch on Dame. I mean, when Scoot's on the floor, I'm gonna be focused in on Scoot, but if it's Brogdon or Ant, I think you're just gonna have to be. You're not gonna have to target anybody, because we don't have that dynamic point guard if Scoot's not out there. So I actually don't know what to tell you on this part, since we haven't seen a game of like actual basketball that matters. It's kind of been just trying to feel each other out. But hopefully if we do the Mother's Day podcast, I'll be able to give you a little bit better advice than
One thing that I do sometimes is like for a quarter, I'll just like focus on like one person and just see just what they do. So like just watch Anfernee for his entire shift. And because I was the same way, like I was drawn to Damian and just see what Damian does. Or sometimes I would like just watch CJ. So sometimes I'll be like, I mean, in the past, it would be like, I'm just going to watch Nurk for his entire shift and see what's happening. But I agree. It is so different to watch this team. I was thinking about this. It was like, you know how I used to watch Hallmark? Very predictable. You knew what was going to happen. Everything was going to end in the same way. The characters were all basically the same. And then I switched to Bravo, and it was like you had no idea what was ever going to happen. Like that's the transition that I'm going through with watching the Blazers. It was like with Damian Lillard, you knew exactly what was going to happen. It was totally predictable. It was safe. And now it's just like, I don't know if someone's going to flip a table. I don't know if someone's going to yell and scream. I don't know if Scoot is going to go off and like, destroy the rim. I just don't know what's going to happen. So it's like a very dramatic adjustment.
It is really funny that you put it that way because Hallmark is super structured in a way that is predictable and easy to follow. And reality TV is not that.
Yes.
So I love
Same
that.
thing.
But I need to ask for clarification. Used to watch Hallmark? Have you retired?
Okay, there's like 150 seasons of Real Housewives. So like I can't do both. I do not have time in my life to watch Hallmark and get through all of the seasons of Real Housewives. So
Oh my
maybe when
gosh.
Christmas happens, I will go back to Hallmark. It's not like I've, banished them from my existence. But sometimes you just want to watch something different. That's what I was feeling like with the Blazers. Like I love Damian Lillard, but I really wanted something different. And so that's kind of where I am right now, both with TV watching and with the basketball team that I watch.
That's very funny. Well, I'm gonna have to check back up with you about that because I really do need to know if you are on sabbatical from Hallmark or if this is like a retirement from Hallmark because
They'll always,
big
I mean,
change.
it's not going anywhere. Okay, let's move on to Malcolm Brogdon and talk about his what do you want to say about him, Sage?
Froggy pants. All right. First of all, he was never the most athletic guy in the world, and because he was so smart, he was able to be an almost all-star by barely passing the athletic profile for a point guard in 2020 basketball. So it's going to be very interesting as he gets older how much more unathletic he gets because he at his prime, he was not a dynamic dribbler of the basketball, but he was just so smart and put himself into positive places. So as it's just going to be interesting to go from Scoot, Shadon, and Ant to this guy that's going to be kind of Andre Miller-ish with his movement and how fast and how slow he plays. But I really love watching Malcolm Brogdon play basketball because he's just so smart. Obviously, he can shoot. He's one of the best shooters in the game. That's why I was thinking he and Matisse would be a really nice pair because Matisse can't and Malcolm absolutely can. But he can dribble. He can definitely pass. He got a lot of assists when he was the main guy in Indiana. But I really just don't know how much of a role he's going to have with this team with, Scoot playing 30 plus, Ant playing 30 plus, and there only being 96 minutes of point guard and shooting guard minutes available for a game. So I just don't think that he's going to be on this team for a long time because he's just too good for the role that we have. And all the young guys that need playmaking minutes, like Scoot needs it, Ant needs it, Shadon absolutely needs to have playmaking reps. So I feel like he's going to be gone at the deadline to a competitor, but while he's here, he's going to provide shooting at a very high level, playmaking, decision making, and I think he's going to be a very good mentor for Scoot Henderson. But maybe 10 minutes a game.
This like ties into one of the things that I said to Tara. I don't remember if I said it on the podcast or if I said it to you elsewhere because we talk about basketball so much. But like I feel like it's possible that Malcolm Brogdon and Cronin made a deal. He's like, mentor my young guys for till the trade deadline, and then I'll when your trade value is higher, when we know who's going to be contenders and who's going to be buyers, like we'll send you to a team where you can try and win. But being a smart player is something that Tara and I have talked at length about, like kind of needing to be around some of these young guys because, you know, Tara's point that she made several weeks ago is like, there's not a lot of winners on this team right now. Not a lot of guys on this team who know how to win. Granted, with the trade that happened kind of late in the season, obviously, like Robert Williams knows how to win. DeandreAyton knows how to win. Like those are guys who have been on winning teams. And Malcolm Brogdon is another one of those guys that brings like kind of this winning mentality and also some like of those smarts that could be useful for those young guys, like figuring out how to adapt their game to being NBA ready. And like we talked like we've talked a lot about how like, you know, a lot of these guys like they didn't even play college. Like, you know, Ant didn't play college, Shadon didn't play college, like Scoot didn't play college. Like it's a big leap to bring their game up to the NBA game, and like that smart stuff about like what's a foul, what's not, how, you know, how sneaky can you be, what are the kinds of like fouls people are going to like scam off of you, like that's all stuff that like a veteran who is smart, who knows how to also speak to the point guard's game as opposed to like the big man's game, like might be super valuable to keep him around for like 5 months.
Absolutely. And there's definitely a difference between being an elite big man, you know, mentor and a guard. It's just a totally different way of approaching the game. Like Malcolm Brogdon knows you have to get DeandreAyton involved in the first quarter, so he's motivated to play defense in the fourth, get your power forward involved so he also can play defense. Like Malcolm knows the steps to get everybody motivated to play. And I think that's going to be good for a guy like Ant to have a guy that's Malcolm's a professional point guard. He was the sixth man last year. He's, you know, in his time, he was like a mid all-star point guard. He just didn't get it. Like having a guy that knows how to get everybody involved and, you know, pick his spots to take and make shots is going to be huge for him. So I'm really excited to see what happens to Ant and Scoot with Malcolm's mentorship. And I definitely agree that they had a hint deal. Like, we're going to get you to a competitor. Just please mentor our guys for, you know, the first few months of the season.
Also, it's good to like kind of project to the league that you're happy with him and you want to keep him, because to unseat him if you want him gets a little bit more expensive if you're happy to keep him too.
And just think, playoffs, having a guy that can hit 40% from three is a very valuable commodity to have for, you know, like the Clippers or the Nuggets or an Eastern Conference team that needs some extra shooting. Like Malcolm could be awesome for the Miami Heat, just taking and making shots for them in that awful cramped scheme that they run.
You know, I hear they do need a point guard over there.
Oh, I love it. Another thing I thought about Brogdon is that, just like I was saying, I like to see Scoot and Ant playing together. I like Brogdon and Shadon playing together because if Shadon plays alongside a guy who can actively on the floor tell him exactly where he needs to be, and Shadon can learn that from an absolute pro, then while Scoot is developing a lot of that, you know, the two of them will be ready to go together. So I like to think of them as like another duo I would like to see play together a fair amount.
I think that having somebody that can run offense but doesn't need to run offense will be really cool for Shadon, because he needs to learn how to break somebody down and make a play. Malcolm can, but he doesn't need to. He's perfectly fine sitting on a hash ready to catch the ball and shoot it. So I think that having Shadon and Malcolm would be a really nice combo for the first part of the season. And just having a dead eye shooter is going to be important, because wasn't our starting lineup Scoot, Ant, Matisse, Jeremy, and DeandreAyton? That's pretty impressive for the amount of non-shooters on that lineup. Because Matisse is pretty awful at it. Scoot isn't respected yet. Ayton doesn't do it. So you're really putting all of your hope and dreams and offensive spacing on two dudes. So
it's been nice to see how Ant has been so consistent already on that. Like, because I think one thing we didn't talk about earlier is that not only does Scoot's gravity is going to grow and get more, Ant's is already there. So that's going to give Scoot just a little bit more room to operate in there. Okay, so we talked about Ayton, we talked about Brogdon. Okay, Toumani Camara, kind of the darling of preseason. People are really, really excited about him. So what do you want to say about him?
My co-host is very, very excited about him as well. I watched some of his I watched all the preseason, then I watched some of his tape. I think that he is a really impressive vertical athlete. Like, he jumps high and can finish. I have seen games where he can hit threes at a pretty consistent level. It isn't enough, but I feel like he could be, if he develops perfectly, he can be the PJ Washington that I want on this team. But it's going to take a lot of reps for him to potentially get to that. I also don't want to sacrifice Kris Murray for him, because I like Kris Murray a lot more, but I really think that he has a potential with his vertical athleticism, his ability to score, and I think that he could be a pretty athletically good defender too. So I really am impressed by him, but I don't want to sacrifice Kris Murray for him just yet. But I really think that he could be a nice piece in the future if he's developed right and plays well.
Dribble, pass, or shoot?
I hate his dribbling. It's really mechanical. Like, like he's very, well, he's a big man, so he doesn't dribble well. I feel like he moves kind of robotically. Like, the reason Jrue Holiday isn't a Hall of Fame player is because he moves like a robot. Camara kind of has that robotic stiffness that isn't what I favor, but I think that he's athletic enough. I don't know if he's a dribbler. I don't know. I haven't really seen him pass that much. Like, in the tape that I watch, he's usually the one shooting or scoring. So, like, all the stuff that I watched was him finishing for somebody off of somebody's, action. Like, the point guard made the team rotate, which allowed him to score. So I don't think he's going to be a passer and a dribbler, but I think that if he speeds up that set shot and scores, I think he can be a shooter. But I think it's going to be a lot of hustling and, versatility with his athleticism. But so I would say he can shoot wide open, functional dribbler, functional passer.
Do you think it's the defense that will keep him on the floor, that will earn him minutes and keep him on the floor?
If he shows the versatility that I've seen in games, his defense will keep him on the floor. But it's kind of like Kris Murray is fundamental. This dude is risk reward type of defender. I see him get steals, I see him get blocks, but I don't see him in perfect position a lot. But yeah, I think his athleticism and versatility is how he's going to stay on the court.
When you're talking about Kris Murray and Camara, it sounds like, and totally correct me if I'm wrong, that Kris Murray is like you said, the guy who's got the fundamentals, so maybe has a little bit of a lower ceiling and a higher floor, and then Camara higher ceiling, lower floor kind of situation.
Exactly.
It's exciting to be in a place where we can take a risk on those high ceiling guys, isn't it?
Him and Repair are high ceiling guys, and then they got the safety of Kris Murray. Like, if he's the ninth man in your rotation, you're ecstatic. But if Camara or Repair hits, it's going to be game changing. But you have the safety already of Kris Murray. But yeah, Dustin said he looks let me look at the exact term, but he's like miles ahead of Kris Murray. I was like, let's chill out a little bit here. Kris Murray still has a much safer floor, a much more comfortable floor for me to be like, that's my backup four.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes when you walk into a house and it has that beautiful 12-foot ceiling entrance, you're like, ooh.
Oh, some HGTV talk, my mom.
I haven't even
That's
gone
my
there.
mom's favorite channel.
A lot of comparisons that I'm hearing, and I'm not sure how tongue-in-cheek they are or how much you might find them accurate. Comparisons between Camara and Andre. Oh wait, no, it's Brogdon and Andre Miller. Sorry.
Yes, yeah. Mount Broggy Pants is a very good
Do you
comp.
find that inaccurate? Do you find
Yeah,
that
I
an
do.
accurate comparison?
Well, Broggy Pants can also hit threes at a really, really good rate. So I think it's just basically that they move very similar because they're not the most athletic guys in the world.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about Kamara. Rose, do you have any questions about him or any observations about him since from what you've seen so far?
Not really. I mean, I'll say this. I kind of agree with you. I think because Kris Murray can already shoot. That's like a skill that you can rely on and is not going to disappear. Like the situations and what the quality of his shots will obviously like, vary. But being able to shoot is just makes you your floor is just higher when you're able to shoot the ball.
There's that safety. It's just safety of like, I can guarantee that you're gonna get at least 30% from three, play good defense. Kris Murray, I love you. I still believe you're better.
But like I'll say that my gut reaction is that I am thrilled that we have two forward-esque guys that we can feel out and see how they fit. Because I feel like we've basically since Nick Batum left, I feel like we've been a constant like rotating door of small forwards that we try to turn into a starting small forward that may or may not work out as a starting. Like, like we had the Mo Harkless experiment. I just feel like it's nice to have two guys where like you could relatively you would hit the jackpot with one of these guys, like, and they're young and you can develop them more. And I don't know, like gambling on filling a starting role with two guys feels better than gambling with one guy, which we have been doing. Like we're like, oh, Mo Harkless, Hazonia. Like I just feel like we've been so thin in like the forward category for so long. And we're so used to being like, we're going to gamble on a guy and this is our plan A. And now our plan A is to gamble on a couple of guys and see what they develop into and then see how they fit with the rest of the core. And to me, that just is a much better position to be in.
So Rose, you can't play everybody.
Right.
So who would you give playing time between Kris Murray, Camara, and Jabari?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a coach. Although I would say that I do think that those guys are all very different. From what I've seen of them. Obviously, I have not seen a lot of Kris Murray or Toumani Camara yet, but I mean, it might be matchup related. I don't know. Like I might like to see what these guys look like in different matchups and also like what they look like against first and second units. Like some of these guys might thrive against the second unit and maybe being like not as impactful on the first unit. And like some guys, quite frankly, I think that's their best role is sometimes against the second unit. So I don't know, like if I were a coach, which I am not, I might, because they're young and because I don't know what this roster looks like yet, might give them different opportunities in different situations to see which one seems like suits them best.
I feel like that's what this year's going to be about.
Absolutely.
Is it like, why would we worry about nailing in a rotation at any time before? Well, there's the tournament. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but but yeah, in general, it's just like that's what this year and maybe next year too is going to be about, is just like and watching to see how the coach handles that.
It's going to be on Chauncey Billups to empower each and every one of those guys that on the second unit. But I think we found our eighth or ninth man in one of those three players. And then I mean, Matisse can, I guess, play small forward for us for a few years, but we've got our risk, we've got our safety, and it's time to build up on Shadon and Scoot for what works with them the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I ask, Sage, in your opinion, who do you think the leader of this team is now that there's no Dame?
I think it's Scoot because of his mentality and attitude. I think that he's a leader of men. I know he's only 19, but I think that how his attitude is, he's the real. I don't feel like any of our Blazers are that social. I think they're all quieter guys. So having Scoot be this have this mentality and charisma, I think he's going to be the guy. Maybe not day 1, but day 45.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know their personalities well enough yet, and I kind of wonder if it's going to be like a little bit of leadership by committee. Because I know that like having veteran leadership is like really valuable. I think about like the Warriors. Like the Warriors are like, everybody's like, oh, Steph's the leader. I'm like, but is he though? Isn't DeAndre kind of the leader of that group? Like, and they do lead in different ways for their own purposes. And I wonder if like because this team is all coming up together, and if the plan is to like identify a core that will be together and play together for several years, like if they'll settle into that kind of dynamic where like like maybe one guy's the carrot guy, one guy's the stick. I don't know. Like,
is it bad that I didn't even think about Chauncey Billups at all for leader of team?
Well, I meant like specifically because I said, now that Dame is gone, like,
yeah,
the leader on the floor, the leader of the team. And I think about like, just like, Steph's the best player on his team, but like, and maybe he leads by example, but Draymond is the stick. Like that's the guy who's gonna get in your face when you're not doing what you're doing. Like you don't see Steph barking down guys the way that Draymond Green barks down guys in the middle of a game. Like
I just don't see like someone like Jeremy Grant being able to bark at anybody. He's too mellow.
Yeah.
Well, and also
honestly,
these veterans might be gone.
I don't think I've heard Shaden Sharpe speak more than 45 words, really. He's very quiet. So
you think DeandreAyton could be a leader?
I've only heard him complain, really. I think if you empower him, maybe, but all I've heard about him is kind of complaining about Monty and Kris. So I don't know. I mean, it's a fresh start for everybody, so I really don't know who the leaders are going to be. But my first guess would be Scoot, just because of his, personality.
I think this year it kind of does have to be the coach. Like he really does need to. Like, I don't want that permanently. I don't like when I remember when I talked to Adam Marius once about Denver, and I was like, well, who's the leader of the team? And he was like, well, it's Coach Malone. And I was like, ew. Like, because I was used to Damian Lillard, right? I mean, we're spoiled. We're used to Damian Lillard. And I think if it's going to be anybody, it will be Scoot, but he's got to figure out like how to make sure that he gets his nap time right and his meal times right so that he can make it to the plane right now. Like that's what he needs to concentrate on this year. But I do think that in the future, like once he's got that all down, it will be him. But I think right now the coach needs to be the leader of the team. All right, Robert Williams.
Okay, he's too good for the position of playing 10 minutes a game, but I think that we have to increase his value and then trade him when at all possible, when his value is high. But honestly, I've only seen him really finish. He doesn't shoot. He's a very interior centric big, and he catches lobs and dunks and finishes at a very high rate. I think I saw you tweet that he dunked 2.6 times a game, right? So he finishes inside the most. But if DeandreAyton's playing 34 minutes a game, he's only going to play 8 because those two can't play together because it's a complete and total lack of spacing. So I think you build him up on some very short term or short minute situations, get his value up, and then trade him because he's just too good for the position that he has. Unless something catastrophic happens, he's not going to play more than 10 minutes a game. And Robert Williams is a good player. He of course has like I think it's like a degenerative knee injury if I remember right. So
He
you
has
have to baby him.
a chronic condition that's
Yeah.
like blood vessel related.
Yeah, so I guess you have to get him with kid glove and you know play for him to be valuable, but I just don't expect him to be on this team for a very long time because it's DeandreAyton's job. It's not his. So get him onto a team where you do right by him and give him minutes and a role that is at his skill level because he's too good to play 8 minutes.
So you're really convinced that DeandreAyton is playing like 40 minutes a game.
32.
Is that right?
32.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 32 plus 16 is 48. Why do you have Robert Williams only playing 10 minutes a game? Do you have somebody else sliding in to play small ball? Do you
Yeah,
think
I
that
think that
DeAndre is like going to be insisting I'm playing at least 32 minutes a game?
I kind of have it that you play Ayton real minutes, and then in certain situations, Robert Williams just doesn't fit the need for the team. Like if a team goes small, give Camara or Walker more minutes. And I just don't think that Robert Williams should play extended minutes when he has leg injuries, and I don't think that he's in the future plans for the team. So we have depth at 4. If we can go small and match teams that go small in those minutes, I wouldn't try and put Robert Williams in there.
Can I tell you something interesting I learned about him while I was reading about him? In 2022, he was the fastest decision maker in terms of like quick touches. He makes very fast decisions. The number of touches and the amount of time he plays off the ball like are for him faster and more numerous than anybody else in the league. And that made me think about like how he could play with a fast team. Someone who has quick touches off the ball, like helps keep the ball moving. And then that like dynamic level of play can be up. So even though he is kind of an interior big that plays like, as you said, like really close to the basket, he might have a very interesting game that slots in nicely around these guys who want to play fast, who want to make quick decisions and move the ball and get quick shots.
Absolutely.
And actually, so it's funny, Tara and I have like talked briefly a little bit about how we wonder like what his health is going to be and if he's going to play, like how long he'll be on this team. But that conversation, Tara, I'll just tell you right now, led me to my fantasy basketball's team name.
Oh,
which I will share with you now. I've which I'm doing with Rob from Blazing the Trail. He's my co-GM. It is Time Lordinger's cat.
Is he in the box? Is he not in the box?
Is he? Who knows? I'm not sure. Is he on this team? Is he not on this team? I don't know.
That's a great name.
Time Lordinger's cat. I came up with that this morning. I was like, I'm keeping that one.
That is very well done. Well, anything else on Robert Williams to talk about?
I think he's really, really good, but there's there's context. Like he's injury prone, and I don't want him to get hurt while he's on the Blazers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do have a history that makes us a little squeamish around that, and it makes me like think it's very interesting that Joe Cronin even traded for him, because I know that like the perception of other teams is that because of our history with players with known injuries and known chronic conditions, that we may be a little bit more conservative about who we're willing to trade for and take onto this team with like injury history. But I guess it's just another little data point that business as usual is a little bit different with Joe Cronin in charge.
Yeah, for sure. Well, should we move into our takes, Rose?
Yes. So at the end of every episode, we like everybody to provide a take. It can be about basketball, it can be about whatever. And I know that you guys have both thought about this. I'm really excited to dive into this. Tara, before you explode, what is your take?
Okay, my take is for the month of October and November, Tuesdays and Fridays are for winning. Here's why. Those are the in-season tournament dates, games that count. And I think we've got some veterans on the team. Run them out on Tuesdays and Fridays between now and the 1st of December to get us that seeding so that the Blazers can compete for the in-season tournament championship. All the other nights, business as usual with the rookies. It's all about reps. Tuesdays and Fridays are about winning. That's my take.
Isn't most of Tuesdays and Fridays are usually the big like NBA slates? Monday, Tuesdays, Fridays in DFS is times where I'm not leaving my computer until 7:45. So isn't it like most those days are like the prime 8 to 12 game slates, right?
Yeah, well, those are the days that the tournament games are taking place on. They're taking place on Tuesdays and Fridays.
So, okay. So all you fantasy people, Jeremy Grant's going to be a little bit better on those days than, if he's playing on a Wednesday.
Yeah, we talked a bit about the in-season tournament last week because that was Rose's take. And so I've been just ruminating on it all week. And I did a little bit of diving into like understanding more how it's set up. And because I do want this team to taste winning, kind of going back to what Rose said about we're building around a team of some guys who've never really experienced winning. And I want to get something. I want this team to be playing for something besides just development. And I know the players are always going to be trying to win, but I think it would be really fun to see the Blazers compete for that. They can catch teams by surprise. They don't have like if you just look at their veterans, it's not like they're any slackers. These are all guys who are decent players, but when you look at what the team is trying to do, they're not going to try to play all those veterans 36 minutes a night because they've got Scoot Henderson and they've got Shadon and Sharpe they need to develop. So that's my take. Tuesdays and Fridays are all about winning, at least through December.
Like it. I like that a lot.
And it's not forever either. We can set aside those dates where they're going to, try to make an impact and then see what happens after that. And if they play in Vegas, if they're in the finals, I am going to that.
Nice.
And then I'm also hoping that they name it the Cronin Cup after the winning GM.
I like
whatever GM wins it. I think they should name it after him as long as it's Cronin. Otherwise they should just call it the NBA in-season tournament.
They're going to name it after somebody because remember they just revamped all their awards to name them after like whatever.
Yeah, and this one's just called the NBC tournament. Or NBA tournament.
Yeah. Boo.
So that's my take.
I like that take.
Thank you for letting me go first, Rose. I was so proud of myself for having one before we even got started.
That's great. I'm so glad that my take could give birth to your take. We'll just keep the mid-season tournament takes going. Okay, Sage, what's your take?
So, rice is the elite carb for food. I think rice is the best carb. A little context about me. My family had a Chinese restaurant in Providence, Rhode Island, right by the airport. They had like Frank Sinatra go and sing in their restaurant. And then my uncle owns Lotus Foods, a rice and noodle company. So rice has been in my blood for generations. And I think that rice is the elite of elite carb for eating. Potatoes are cool, but rice is so versatile as well. You can fry it, you can put kimchi on it, you can do a lot of things with it. You can put tofu and pork. It's just such a versatile and great carbohydrate for you to eat. So rice, in my opinion, in my take, is the elite.
Well, I know that you were interested whether I agreed with you. So I'm Korean,
Mhm.
and we also are a rice culture. But I will say that like Korean meals, like they always have the rice is always present, but it's never like the featured piece. I mean, not never, but like usually it's not the featured part of a meal. That said, we are also big rice cake eaters. Not just rice, like, like grain
Mhm.
rice, but like rice cake. Um, and also I keep thinking about rice noodles are
It's
amazing.
versatile.
They're super good. And so, like what Korean culture, yes, we're a rice culture, but it's like a fistful of rice in every meal, not like a whole meal of rice. Um, and I just have to say, like I agree with you, number one. And number two, I agree with you also as somebody who has GERD, which is like reflux,
Mhm.
because rice is really great for eating when you have reflux. And so like in Korea, like a Korean dish that I like to eat a lot. Like when I'm like not feeling well or like I'm having like a lot of reflux happening, I eat this thing called juk, which is basically it's like a rice porridge
Mhm.
that you put like you dice veggies into, and you can add chicken or tofu or seafood if you want, like to like a rice porridge. And so it's basically like the way we eat chicken noodle soup in Western culture, but instead it is primarily rice. It's primarily rice. It's thicker than that. And it also is easier to eat. Like if you were like a little kid or like really
Mhm.
elderly and you're not as good at like getting like broth to your mouth without spilling, like juk is really like great for like eating when you're sick and you're also not feeling that coordinated. So yes, I'm totally with you. Love rice. Um and
I
side
like black pepper in my juk, and
Oh
then
yeah.
yeah, really like really fine ginger in my juk as well. Again,
Yeah.
right, rice family. Like but yeah, when my mom was sick, we made juk, and it was just like in this huge pot of just rice. So like we put some black pepper, put some ingredients. I mean, I'm actually kind of shocked you said juk because I was like, wait, we eat juk.
Yeah, Koreans, we love dude,
Yeah.
we love that. And like when I'm sick or when I have reflux, it's my go-to meal because it also gives you like a lot of the nutrients that you need. It gives you a carb, it gives you a protein, and it tastes good. It goes down easy. It's easy on your stomach. I'm all about it. I'll
Mm-hmm.
make it like, once every couple of months. And freezes well too. You can do
Mm-hmm.
that too.
Yeah,
So
my
Tara,
stomach is growling. I'm really hungry now and I would love to have some recipes. But what I also want to know is like what kind of rice? Is there a preferred kind of rice? Is there only one kind of rice?
there's lots
Oh,
of kinds
there's
of
tons
I
rice.
of
know, but I
rice.
mean like does that matter or is this just a blanket all rice?
Okay. I love jasmine the most, but here's a tip for all of you Indian food people that enjoy Indian food. If they're serving jasmine rice, that place is broke. It's basmati rice. So there's tons of rices
Mhm.
in there. Like you can go and get the forbidden purple rice. Lotus Foods has it. But there's tons of rice. I guess I've been a fan of jasmine rice the most, but as I've gotten older, sometimes brown rice is the move, but
Not for Juke
preferably
though.
white jasmine.
Not for Juke. That you
Oh,
don't
well,
want
it was almost always yeah, white.
for white rice. Yeah, you use like white rice or like I use like sweet rice,
Mm-hmm.
like that. I forget. It's like really glutinous,
Mm-hmm.
but it gives like a nice like kind of sweet creamy texture because it's so glutinous. Yeah. There's lots of kinds of rice, Tara. Some of it's personal preference. Some of it is like dish, I think, preference. Um, but yeah, I honestly haven't found rice that I didn't like, and I will never forget when I was pregnant. I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, which is like diabetes that you only have while you're pregnant. And then you give birth and then it goes away. And I remember the lady telling me that I couldn't eat rice anymore. And I was like, oh, well, that's tough because I'm Korean. And when I looked at my after visit summary from that lady, she was like, she didn't put that, she like reflected that comment um in my after visit summary, but she didn't say what I said. She said that I said that because I like it too much. It was hard for me to give up rice because I like it too much. And I'm like, no, that is the difference between a preference and like a cultural thing. So anyway,
Wow. Hmm.
I still ate it, and my baby's fine.
I'm glad to, because I like brown and I like basmati, and I actually have tried lots of the different the lotus ones too. So yeah, I need to go make some rice, clearly, because now my
I was a
stomach is
taste
growling.
tester for Lotus Foods in
Ooh.
2021 and 2020. They were looking for new suppliers of, I think, uh they're doing ramen noodles. So I was a taste tester for them. So
I
yeah,
need that
deep in the
job.
rice and noodle
Can I have
game.
that job? I want that job.
I was lucky, well, because it was COVID time, so they couldn't really do R&D on stuff. They needed to just send it to their family. So yeah, that I'm very deep in the rice game. It is, yeah, it is, I think it's my favorite food. Like, I remember my grandpa would just like put soy sauce on white rice, and baby me was just so about that. That was like my favorite food of all time. And as I got older, I realized rice was very versatile, but a bowl of rice with some soy sauce just hit the spot when I want to be nostalgia.
I love it. Yeah, we agree. I'm a lover of potatoes too. And Koreans, we eat potatoes as well, but like, you're right. There's nothing quite like rice. Super versatile. Okay. My take today. So, Tara, it's no secret that I think that fall is the best season, but I've decided that I think that, it's like pumpkin patches and, hot drinks and sweaters and all that stuff like
Sweaters.
that. And I was like, but also the idea that I have not associated it with basketball is very, very silly of me. So what I should be saying, and what my take is today, is that fall is the best season because it's basketball season. And it's like new school year, like anything's possible, especially when we have a new team. Like, fall is basketball season, and we are here to like usher in the best food, the best drinks, the best clothing, the best looking trees with cars underneath them, whatever. Also, the best sport is starting back up again. Basketball.
That's
That's
a
my
great
And
take.
take.
you got uh important baseball and football too, so it's got all of the major sports along with it.
Yeah, it's at the height of a lot of sports. It really is.
Yeah.
It's like you just everywhere you go, it's like you're a kid in a candy shop if you like sports during the fall,
Mm-hmm.
for
My
sure.
husband my husband calls me a summer Grinch, and I will embrace that, but also summer is the worst time for sports. And if you love sports, mm-mm.
Yeah, apparently people like to do things like other stuff, like travel and have lives that they do during the summertime. And I'm just sitting around in summertime going, when's basketball starting?
Yeah. And then we like get a little bit of a taste with like, oh, the draft, oh, summer league, and I watch tennis to like get myself through it, but
It's not the
no,
same.
not the same.
Not for us anyway. Well, y'all, this has been a really wonderful time talking with everyone. Sage, you want to tell folks about your podcast and where they can find you?
We are available on all of the major podcasting apps. We are the Holy Backboard. We're going to start vlogging more. I'll do fantasy content. I know Dessa's going to do uniform content. And then you can check out my Panda Instagram, Panda's Doing Things. This is my first ever Panda shirt. It's a happy panda wearing sunglasses looking
I love it.
badass. So pandasdoingthings.com or Instagram Pandas Doing Things. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. You can find me at TCB Bigs on Twitter, and you can find me also there on Instagram. Rose, do you want to take us out of here?
Yeah. You can find me at Rose L. Harding on Instagram, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, Discord, in the we have a take Discord, and yeah, come check it out. Come chat with us. We're talking about scary movies right now in the Discord, which Jason is just he is like my guru apparently, because he's seen every scary movie and he has them all ranked. And so if you are just getting into scary movies, this is the month and this is the place, because Jason will hold your hand and help you find your way through them all. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate you. We appreciate you, Sage. Tara, shoot, just another episode. Thanks for listening, everybody. Go Blazers.
Go Blazers. Where's that recording?